Have you ever noticed your cat sleeping right next to you, but with its back completely turned toward you? And for a moment you wonder, is it avoiding me? Does it not want me to touch it? Or does it just see me as a breathing pillow? What's interesting is that a lot of cat owners misunderstand this exact moment, because on the surface, turning away can seem distant, but in a cat's language, it can actually be a very deep sign of trust. A cat that is truly tense will not sleep comfortably next to just anyone, and it certainly will not so easily turn its body away in a way that suggests it feels no need to stay on guard. Behind that sleeping position, which seems so ordinary, there are often more layers of psychology than most people realize. In this video, we're going to unpack those layers one by one, why cats sleep with their backs turned toward you when that is a sign of trust, when it is simply a habit or a matter of choosing the right spot, and what your cat may really be trying to say through that quiet little distance. 1. Turning their back does not always mean distance. This is one of the most common misunderstandings. Humans often associate facing each other with intimacy. So when a cat is not looking at you, not curling up on your chest, not wrapping itself around you and instead turns its back, many people immediately feel a little rejected. But cats do not build a sense of safety the way humans do. For cats, closeness does not always mean facing you. More often it means this being close enough, keeping their sense of control, and being able to rest without feeling forced into interaction. In other words, some cats do not love you by staring right at you. They love you by choosing to sleep next to you, while still staying in the position that feels most natural to them. That is why many cats who are deeply bonded to their owners still sleep with their backs turned, or lie at the foot of the bed beside your hip with their head facing outward. Not because they want distance, but because they are staying close to you in the way that feels safest to them. If you think this point is true, comment 1. Because a lot of people have misunderstood this for a long time, assuming that a cat turning away means coldness, when in reality it may simply be the cat's own quiet form of intimacy. 2. When a cat turns its back and falls asleep, it usually means it no longer feels the need to stay guarded. This is where the deeper psychology comes in. Sleep is a vulnerable state. And for cats, that is even more true because their survival instincts make them highly sensitive to sounds, movement, and changes around them. A cat only truly relaxes when the place, the scent, the rhythm, and the person all feel familiar enough. So, if your cat can lie close to you and sleep with its back turned, that usually says something very simple. I do not see you as a threat. I do not need to keep watching you. I can rest in your presence. That is a pretty deep form of trust. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. There is one detail worth remembering. A lot of people keep waiting for cats to show love in ways that are easier for humans to recognize, like headbutting, licking your hand, or lying on your chest. But with cats, sometimes the strongest sign is actually relaxation. It is sleeping deeply. It is not startling easily. It is turning its back and still choosing to stay. In a cat's world, staying near you while in a vulnerable state is often what carries the most meaning. 3. Sometimes a cat turns its back because it is quietly keeping watch over the space for both of you. It may sound unusual, but this is a very interesting, instinctive layer of cat behavior. Many cats that sleep beside their humans choose a position where their head or face is turned outward toward the open space. That means their back faces you while their eyes, ears, head, or even their whole body are angled toward the room, the door, or the walkway. Why? Because this lets them stay close to a familiar source of safety, which is you, while still keeping some awareness of the environment around them. Cats are actually very strategic about where and how they sleep, and their sleeping position is often connected to how much control they feel they have over the space around them. In other words, turning their back toward you does not necessarily mean turning away from you. Sometimes it simply means turning toward the rest of the world, almost as if they are saying, I feel safe next to you. As for everything out there, let me keep an ear on it. And that mix of relaxation and light alertness is exactly what makes a cat so cat-like. They do not lose their instincts just because they love you. They simply choose to place those instincts inside a safer zone. 4. Your scent may be part of the reason your cat chooses that position. One thing many cat owners do not realize is that cats live in a world shaped by scent far more than we do. They recognize familiarity not only through sight or voice, but also through body scent, the smell of blankets, clothing, and the bed you sleep in every day. So when a cat turns its back toward you or rests its backside or even its tail against you while sleeping sometimes, it is placing its body inside a scent zone that feels deeply familiar and safe. Your presence may also help reduce your cat's stress even more than an object that only carries your scent. That helps explain why some cats love sleeping by your side, behind your back, on your pillow, or right where you had just been lying. It is not always just because that spot is warmer. It is also because that place carries a very clear trace of you. For humans, affection often moves through words. For cats, the feeling of belonging often moves through scent daily rhythm, in places that repeat over and over again. So sometimes turning their back is not a way of pulling away. It is a very quiet way of leaning into your familiarity. 5. But turning away does not always mean deep love or deep trust. This part matters a lot because it helps avoid overreading the behavior. Yes, when a cat sleeps beside you with its back turned, it can often be a sign that it feels safe. But that does not mean every instance should be treated as a single proof of love. Sometimes the cat is simply choosing the most comfortable angle. Sometimes that direction is warmer. Sometimes it is darker on that side. Sometimes that position makes it easier to stretch out. And sometimes it is just a fixed habit the cat repeats every day. Cats are highly sensitive to comfort and to what feels best in their bodies. So if you want to understand them correctly, you always have to look at the full context. For example, if your cat has its back turned, but its body is soft, its ears are relaxed, its breathing is steady, it is sleeping deeply, and it does not startle when you move a little, that is usually a positive sign. But if your cat has its back turned while the tail is flicking, the ears are angled sideways, the body looks tense, the sleep seems light and restless, or it turns away and then moves farther off when you come close, that may be less about relaxation and more about wanting distance. Understanding cats always means reading clusters of signals, not just one isolated gesture. If you have noticed that one behavior alone is never enough, comment 2. Because the more observant a cat owner becomes, the more they realize that cats do not communicate through one sign at a time, but through their overall state. 6. Some cats love deeply but still need a quiet kind of closeness that feels right to them. This is the part that touches many cat owners the most once they truly understand it. Not every cat is the cuddly type. Not every cat likes sleeping with its face pressed into your hand. Some cats love you very much, trust you deeply, and are closely attached to your daily rhythm. But the way they stay close is far more subtle. They choose to lie beside you. They choose the lightest point of contact. They choose to turn their back without leaving your space. They choose presence over performance. And honestly, that is a very mature kind of bond in the world of cats. It is not loud. It is not demanding. But it lasts. A lot of owners feel sad because their cat is not clingy like someone else's cat. But sometimes your cat may be loving you in a more delicate language, not by looking at you all the time, but by sleeping beside you as if your presence alone is enough to make them feel at peace. Sometimes having a cat sleep next to you with its back turned is actually a very beautiful privilege, because it shows that you no longer have to keep proving anything. You have already become part of that familiar feeling of safety. 7. When a cat turns the back part of its body toward you, it can also mean, "I accept you." This detail is pretty fascinating and a little counterintuitive from a human point of view. In cat communication, exposing vulnerable parts of the body or turning the rear of the body toward another individual can sometimes be linked to social acceptance and a lack of perceived threat. Of course, when a cat is sleeping next to you, that does not mean it is intentionally sending a complex message every second. But it does suggest something important. Cats do not necessarily see turning their back or rear toward you as rude or distant the way humans might. In many cases, it actually reflects a fairly high level of comfort. They do not need to show you their face to prove closeness. They just keep staying there. 8. What you should do when your cat sleeps with its back turned toward you. When this happens, the best thing to do is not to pull your cat around so it faces you. It is also not a good idea to keep touching, hugging, or adjusting its position just because that feels more affectionate to you. What your cat usually needs in that moment is respect for its rest, stability, and the feeling that being near you does not mean being overly disturbed. There are 3 very simple things you can do. Move gently, avoid touching your cat too much when it is sleeping deeply, and pay attention to whether this position happens regularly when your cat chooses to stay near you. If it does, your cat may be saying something very soft and meaningful. "I feel safe beside you, even if I do not need to face you to prove it." Joe, the deeper lesson behind this behavior. If you look at the bigger picture of why a cat sleeps with its back turned toward you, there is one very important thing to remember. Not every expression of love looks like love through human eyes. Cats do not always communicate in the ways that are easiest for us to understand. They do not always face you. They do not always stay pressed against you. They do not always ask to be held, but they do have their own quiet ways of showing you that you are a safe part of their world. And one of those ways is this sleeping beside you, without feeling the need to stay on guard. Sleeping beside you while still being fully themselves. Sleeping beside you in a posture that is instinctive, natural, deeply cat, and completely real And maybe this is the part that hits the hardest. When a cat turns its back toward you and falls asleep peacefully, it may not be moving away from you at all. It may actually be showing you that when it is with you, it feels safe enough to stop watching everything. If you think this point is truly right, comment 3. 10. In the end, the next time your cat sleeps with its back turned toward you, do not rush to feel disappointed. Look a little closer. Is it lying close to you? Is it sleeping deeply? Does its body look soft and relaxed? Does it keep coming back to that same spot again and again? Because sometimes the deepest form of affection a cat can show is not in the way it looks at. To you, it is in the fact that it can close its eyes beside you. And in the naturally cautious world of cats, that is a very big act of trust.